Only on the periodic table, yeah? The number of electrons will always equal the number of protons. Does everybody see that? So on the periodic table, always, protons and electrons will be equal because all of the atoms that are on the periodic table should be neutral. There should be no excess positive or negative charges there. But these atoms and the chemicals that they make, when they're in solution, they react differently. You understand? Than just being on the periodic table all by themselves. When we stick them in water, they start acting strange. Right? The sodiums give up the electron. I don't want it. Here, take it. I don't want it. Somebody take the electron. Chloride typically will take that electron. Phosphates will take the electrons. So, sodiums, potassiums will give up electrons. Calciums will give up electrons. Irons will give up electrons. Guys, that's the definition of what is a metal. When you put a metal in water, it's going to give up its electrons. So by giving up an electron, by giving up one electron, I become a +1 charge. By giving up an electron, I become a +1 charge. By taking on an electron, I become a negative charge. By taking on 3 electrons, I become a -3 charge. Everybody see that? By taking on an electron, I become a negative charge. By giving up 2 electrons, I take on a +2 charge. Everybody see that? What about this one? Here, I gave up 3 electrons, yes? Here, what? I only gave up 2 electrons. See that? So, this is the one that we want. This is the one we need in hemoglobin. Not this one. This is the one that we use when we no longer need it and we want to get rid of it. This is how our body will get rid of it. It'll get rid of it through fecal material. Why do you think your fecal material is brown? If you've ever bruised yourself, don't your bruises turn brown? Everybody agree? Your bruises do turn brown, don't they? They'll even turn green, won't they? A true bruise will go from what? From blue, from red, to blue, to purple, to brown, yellow, green. Yeah? That's the hemoglobin and the iron in it, being oxidized out to a +3 state. You want it in a +2 state when it's in hemoglobin binding to oxygen. That's why you want it. So we are constantly doing this, guys. We're adding an electron. Does everyone agree? To go from a +3 to a +2, got to add an electron, yeah? That's the definition of a what? Of a reduction reaction. If I add an electron, then I'm reducing it. I'm reducing the charge. Does everybody agree? We are nothing more than a series, a multitude, a million series of oxidation and reduction reactions. Didn't I tell you we were just playing games with electrons? Didn't I tell you we were just playing games with electrons? Yeah. What other one? Copper. +2 versus +1. We'll use it in a +1 state. We'll favor it in a +1 state over the +2. So +1 copper we like. Sure enough, that electron transport chain that I keep referring back to, that's on the inner mitochondrial membrane of the mitochondria themselves, they're going to have, guys, iron, copper, built into the protein so that they can play that game with the electrons, because they're apt at taking electrons, aren't they? I got a +2, I add an electron, I get +1. Everybody see that? These are cations, guys. That's not the same as the periodic table, because everything is neutral on the periodic table. But remember, we're not the periodic table, we're the periodic table in solution. Everyone agree? And if that's the case, then we have to talk about it in the forms of cations and anions, because that's the only way we live, is in this form of salt in solution. Okay? Salt in solution. So we got a whole bunch of stuff that's in that water. That's 60% of us. It's not just water alone. And that's why our blood pH is just alkaline. Slightly alkaline. Slightly basic. Anything above 7.0 is basic. Anything below 7.0 is acidic. Any questions? All right. Yes. Oh yeah, it'll be up on the video. I'll put it up on YouTube. I just haven't been able to convert those other ones yet, but I will. What's the boy?
You said we just look up your name to find me up.
Yeah, I took all the old ones down, so if you guys look me up now, you'll see there's nothing on there. I'm in the process of trying to redo it a little bit more organized so that you guys won't have to be floating through 2086 stuff to find the 2085 stuff. So I'm just trying to, figure that all out before I start putting more videos up. All right. And are we almost done? No, 12:30. All right. Sorry. So guys, so we got our fatty acids. All right. We got our fatty acids. We got our amino acids. We have our polysaccharides. Oh, sorry. Let me not jump that far. I didn't mean to jump that far. We have our sugars. And those sugars are either hexose sugars or ketose sugars, for the most part. Because metabolically, we only use hexose sugars. And for the most part, we only use glucose. We don't use galactose. We'll convert galactose to glucose if necessary. Fructose, it has its own pathway biochemically through the cell. All right? So for the most part, the metabolism is based on glucose, not galactose. It's glucose, and that's D-glucose, the dextro form, the right-handed molecule form. All right? For those of you who had taken at least Chemistry 1033, how many had taken Chemistry 1033 before taking this class? 1033 is the chemistry for health majors. No, okay, all right. So you'll get into this, and so those sugars are going to be, for the most part, they're going to be sugars with 6 carbons. Sugars with 6 carbons. Okay. There's one very important one called ribose, which is 5 carbons. The only reason why you need to know ribose is because it's required for ribonucleic acids, guys, which means it's a required sugar, a 5-carbon sugar required to make DNA and RNA. Okay? And that stuff is what's in the nucleus of the cell, the DNA and RNA. Remember, that's the genetic material that we inherit from mother and father. Half of our genetic material we get from mom, the other half we get from dad. We get all of our mitochondria from mother, though. Did everybody hear me? Half of our genetic material, half of our DNA we get from mom, half of our genetic material we get from dad. But we get all of our mitochondria from mother. You understand that? Because the sperm only gives the DNA. That's it. It doesn't give anything else. And it decides if it's male. That's it. And that's if it's not missing the SRY gene on the Y chromosome, but we'll get there in 2026.
So what does that mean exactly for the child?
For the child, that means if mom has problems with her mitochondria at any time, then that baby will have problems with their mitochondria, whether it be male or female. So if you look this up now, it's called mitochondrial disease, maternal mitochondrial disease. There's one called ragged red fibers of the retina. Right? Ragged red fibers of the retina. When I look at when you look inside the eye, you see these ragged red fibers. It's an indicator of this mitochondrial disorder that they got from mom, because something's up with the mitochondria that they inherited from mom. Because that's all we get from mom, right? I mean, that's we don't get anything else from dad. Sorry, all we get is DNA from dad. From what we get from mom is all our mitochondria, separate of half the DNA that we need for us. Mom gives us all the mitochondria that we need, whether we're male or female. Our mitochondria only come from mother. They're only maternal inheritance. You understand that? So all the mitochondria that are in you is all because of mommy. You better go home and thank your mommy. Say, thank you, mommy. Thank you, mommy, for giving me good mitochondria that can do what? Burn sugar in the presence of oxygen to produce 32 ATP. Right? Because if you couldn't, then, oh, mommy, man, you just did me a dirty deed, man. Huh?
So in some ways, would you physically show more traits of your mother?
No, most cases, if this mitochondrial inheritance diseases, if these mitochondria are bad enough, these babies will never develop. The mother will probably not even know she's pregnant and have menses and lose the baby spontaneously without even knowing it. She would just never know. Okay? And that happens in most cases. In most cases, females are just, they're having sex unprotected, and in most cases, they don't even know they get pregnant. I mean, they know they're having sex unprotected, whether they're intending or not intending to get pregnant. In most cases, they don't even know that they're pregnant until about what, the third month? It's in most cases. Even if they're trying, in most cases, they won't know about maybe till the end of the second month. You see?
In some cases, they don't know the full pregnancy.
I got issues with that. That's
Yeah, I
just,
don't believe that.
that's got to be something emotionally wrong with that person to not know that there's something.
No,
Yeah.
but even if you don't show it, don't you physically get sick?
Absolutely.
So
I mean,
I
they're
don't-
not.
I
You
don't
don't
believe that
physically
for a
get sick,
second.
but there are a lot of.
There's
Yeah.
like some indicators.
There are a lot of indicators that would lead you to
No,
believe.
there's-
Like,
Yeah, but
you know,
no,
breast tissue swells and starts
there was
getting
one
tender.
where,
and-
like,
Not bad.
the woman, like, she didn't show the entire pregnancy.
Yeah, she didn't show the rings.
And like the baby was only like 4 pounds and 3 ounces. It was like nothing. And like she didn't have any signs of anything. And she was skydiving, and she went into labor skydiving.
I mean, they've had cases where the female goes all nine months, and then it winds up being a tumor.
Like
Yeah.
the entire.
Like a tumor that continued to grow, and they thought that it was a baby, and it wasn't. It was a tumor.
They didn't do an ultrasound.
Yeah, bad joke.
That's just confusing.
It happens.
Ultrasound.
It happens. It happens.
And
In third world
ultrasound
countries, they don't do ultrasounds. This is one of the reasons why they do
That's
ultrasounds.
badass news.
But it happens. If in a country that doesn't do ultrasounds and you think you're pregnant, you're going around thinking you're pregnant. You imagine. Some areas of the world don't have ultrasounds. Right? So it happens. Sometimes you have the baby developing and the tumor at the same time. Okay? They're called hamartomas. They'll have
Oh,
teeth,
yes.
hair, and they'll have muscle and bone in it. Yeah, it's really
It's
creepy.
creepy.
It's super creepy stuff, right? I mean,
Or like if you had twins and like the twin dissolved to the other one.
It's a
and grow
fetus.
in size.
the tumor has bone, teeth, hair,
There's a
and
kid that had one on his foot.
it's called a hamartoma, and it's a
It
hamartoma.
has like it had teeth and
It's-
it had like a
yeah.
almost developed.
It's just a
eye.
set of cells that just didn't differentiate properly, and they separated out and they created a tumor. Yeah,
I saw it in bio too.
So it's like it was supposed to be a baby,
that's correct.
but
It just didn't have the proper
Yeah,
programming.
or
Didn't
just
have.
it had abnormal
It
cells.
didn't. It didn't
How
have.
to
It just
develop.
didn't have enough. So it developed into some of the tissues, but not all. And then it kind of kept responding, and it developed certain things. But yeah,
But then
it
what is
wasn't
it
something
like,
living.
What is it if you have like two twins and like the twin absorbed the other twin and like later on they find like the twin inside the other?
So typically, what happens is in most cases, twins. So when twins have one placenta, when they're monozygotic twins that share a placenta, more than likely one of the two is going to die, because if they're only sharing one placenta, if they're monozygotic twins that actually separate out early on in embryological development, and they create two placentas separately, then they can survive separately and compete for the same blood supply of the mother. But if they're two that are using one placenta, then they're competing again for this glucose and the oxygen from mother,
And only one will.
because that's what they need to stay alive, right? I mean, guys, if not for mom, right? Mom's system is overtaken. She's breathing in for you to provide oxygen, to provide
Nutrients.
all right, the oxygen and the nutrients necessary. So what she eats and how she breathes is being provided to the developing baby. It starts as a single cell, but it has to go through cell cycle, yeah, constantly multiplying, dividing, mitosis over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, over and over again.
so the baby is the other one?
No, what happens is because there's a competition and there's only one source for blood supply, then usually one of the two gets,
Gets absorbed.
they get, a lot of times if they are born, they're born with severe issues. A lot of them will die. If they don't die in utero, they'll die once they're born, because one is healthy and the other one's not. And if they're lucky and they both survive, the one will be like the scrawny twin, and he'll have issues throughout his life, and the other one will be like the healthy one, and he won't have the same issues. And it's because now if he gets past a certain age part that you got him, you got him back to normal again, then he can have a normal adulthood. But it's those touch and go years when they're younger, because they got a smaller air supply, like their air tube is smaller. They can be almost preemie size. Even though they have 9 months, they can be almost preemie size. And you got to keep them on a ventilator for months until their lungs develop. You got to feed them a bunch of corticosteroids to prevent the inflammation. You're putting the whole system through. You're taxing the whole system. You're stressing the system. And that's what happens with these kids. So, and it all goes back to this, guys. Believe it or not, this chemistry, it plays a huge role. And so for us to go from one cell, right, to 2 cells, and from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, and 8 to 16, and then a ball of cells into a hollow ball of cells, and then that ball of cells inside the hollow ball of cells. It creates a 2-layer disc, a 3-layer disc. We create a notochord, a neural tube. Now we got a plan, we got a brain, a spinal cord, and we got vertebral column. Now we can start growing out our limbs. And that's at the end of 8 weeks. At the end of 8 weeks. So we gotta have sugars, we gotta have fatty acids, we gotta have amino acids, and we gotta have nucleic acids. And the nucleic acids are the most complex of these compounds. Because why? The nucleic acids have a base. They have that ribose, sugar, and then they have to have a phosphate group. Yeah. Oh, you're looking at the hamartoma?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty gross when they
We saw
when they
one-
turn the tumor out and you look at it. It's pretty gross. So the ribose sugar, guys, with a base. Now that base can be adenine, guanine, cytosine, or thymidine. I believe I spelled that right. Adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymidine. If that's the case, then we're looking at DNA, and the ribose is X'd out of an OH group that would be on there. So they call that deoxyribonucleic acid because there's no OH there. Ribose should have an OH there. So if it's RNA, you're going to have this OH, and then they're going to call it RNA, which is ribonucleic acid. And the ribonucleic acids are adenine, guanine, cytosine, and instead of thymidine, it's uracil. Okay? So it's uracil. So the idea is here. Adenine, guanine, cytosine, and wherever thymidine should be, it'll be replaced with uracil. Okay? And so you got ribonucleic acids and you got deoxyribonucleic acids. Deoxyribonucleic acids are what we inherit from mom and dad. Right? We take that DNA, we make RNA. From that RNA, we make protein. Remember I said? DNA, RNA, protein. That is the process. DNA, RNA, protein. So I'm going to write up here. Let me get some of this stuff. So the idea is, hey, we got DNA, and from the RNA, we make protein. Okay? And we know that DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, which means we have no H on the ribose group. We have a base, it's going to be adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymidine, and then a phosphate group. And how this works is, well, DNA is chained. So I got to take each one of these nucleic acids and I got to chain it together. I got to stick it together. So what are we going to do? We're going to put a sugar. The sugar is going to connect not with that OH, but with that OH. So each sugar, each ribose sugar, whether it's DNA or RNA, is going to connect the phosphate of another one to its OH, and then that's how they're going to chain up. So they're going to call that the sugar phosphate backbone. Did everybody hear me? Because it's sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate. Everyone agree? The base is being pushed to the middle. And then the base on the other strand of the DNA is being pushed to the middle. So they're going to constantly, even though the DNA is like this in a helical fashion, the bases are constantly interacting with each other. Sure enough, what are they doing? The same thing that water's doing. Hydrogen bonding. Yeah, remember I told you, intramolecular forces versus intermolecular forces. And the most important intermolecular force that I'm concerned about is this one called hydrogen bonding, because water does it, right? Water is bailando, water is bailando solo, right? With other water molecules. They're exchanging hydrogen ions constantly. That's why you pour water on the, hey, when it rained yesterday, where'd the water go? Absolutely nowhere. Everyone agree? It sat around for a while. Why? Because each water molecule is sticking to each water molecule. They're dance partners, man. They're exchanging dance partners. That's why the water sits. But then as it starts to heat up, sun comes out, then each little water molecule goes, see ya, and evaporates into the air. Everybody understand that? Same thing if you were to take a pot of boiling water and sit there and watch it boil out. What's happening? Each water molecule goes, see ya, see ya. See ya, they're escaping one by one. They're leaving. That's why the water is boiling, because the water molecules are escaping. Huh? Ready to see that? So I got my sugars, I got my fatty acids, my amino acids, my nucleic acids, and these are the most complex of all the compounds that we can make. And that would make sense that we're going to use it to store our genetic material in the form of DNA. When I go DNA to RNA, you know what we call that? Transcription. And when I read my RNA to make protein, that's called translation. But sure enough, you know what? It's never this easy. There's not one form of RNA. There's 3 forms of RNA. There's messenger. There's ribosomal. And then there's what? There's what, guys? So there's messenger RNA, there's ribosomal RNA, and then there's transfer RNA. What do you think the messenger RNA is doing? Sending the message. Carrying the message from the DNA to the ribosome. Everybody understand that?
Yeah.
What's the ribosomal RNA doing? Associated with ribosomes. Does that make sense? Yeah. What's the transfer RNA doing? This guy's so important. He's transferring an amino acid for every 3 on the triplet codon. For every 3 bases in the messenger, it's going to take 1 amino acid and pair it up. And then read the next 3, 1 amino acid, 1 amino acid, 1 amino acid, 1 amino acid, 1 amino acid. Everybody see that? Yeah. So the RNA code, this is how it's going to look. The RNA code will have triplets. The RNA code will have triplets. The ribosome has to come in. The ribosome comes in. It's a large subunit, small subunit. That's the ribosome. Then what happens? You got the messenger RNA. If your ribosomes are coming together, the large and small unit of ribosome come together, then that means that the ribosomal RNA is already in both. So the ribosomes need ribosomal RNA. They come together. mRNA inserts. tRNA. The tRNA looks like a clover leaf. Comes in like this, and it's got an amino acid on it. And what it's going to do, it's going to match up. For every 3, 1 amino acid. For every 3 bases, 1 amino acid. For every 3 bases on the RNA, 1 amino acid. 3 to 1, 3 to 1, 3 to 1, 3 to 1. Everybody follow?
Yeah.
That's how we're going to make all the protein that we need inside the cell, and membrane of the cell, outside the cell. All right, we're getting pretty far here. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, on the back of this sheet of paper, sign your guys' name. Put today's date in the class, please. Yes.
What does the ribosomal RNA do again?
The ribosomal RNA. There's only 4 pieces of ribosomal RNA. 3 of them go to the large ribosome. 1 of them goes to the small ribosomal unit. They'll come together and create that platform. And then the RNA will come in. The mRNA will come in. And then the tRNA will come in. And then you get to make protein. Now you're making protein. So remember we said ribosomes are your protein machinery.